Ramona could be back for sure. I think Ramona is just because it wasn't to the level escalated of the Nene situation. I think you're going to see Ramona back, but I think right now it's like, why? Like Ramona is going to be as relevant in 2 years because she was just such a legacy person. So let the dust settle. We'll have 18 million other controversies as 2 years passes, and then you can bring her back. And I think people will be fine with that.
It's a pause. And by the way, I'm not taking Ramona's side against Ebony. It's almost the opposite. I'm saying that I agree with everything you just said. I think they conveniently didn't find any racial infractions on Ramona's part because they do want her back. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that Ebony isn't justified and you read all these things. Apparently it's against crew members and all these. I'm just saying I think conveniently the investigation didn't find anything because they do want Ramona back at some point. I agree with you. I think if it was some other housewife that they know, like Jenny from Salt Lake, when they just are like, you did this, you're kicked out. I think it's a very selective, convenient, yeah, thanks for your complaint, Ebbs. We see nothing wrong. Let's document it. I think it's very convenient because they want Ramona attached. And at least this gives them the option. I'm going to go on. So Sarah's just smiling. So we said that.
Well, yeah, we said that. I mean, I agree. So right. I think there you have it.
And okay, wait. Well, yeah, and then I was going to say also, legacy, we talked about the reboot. What do you think of, do you know these women?
Yeah, what'd she say?
Does not know a single person. And again, this aired now this past Monday, guys, by the time you hear this. So I'm like, doesn't know a single person. And yeah, we talked about, we're hearing that the N-word was used in anti-Semitism. And what do you think about all of this? For me to really just go in on Luann, I treat Luann very what did she say? You guys have to listen. I forgot, but she had some, and I said, isn't that how Ramona and Ebony and all this happened? And we now had a pause and a cancellation, and we're right back in the thick of it with the same type of.
And by the way, I'm curious about, I don't know if Luann answered this, but I'm curious to our audience and to you. Would you, so Lizzie Savetsky quit. That is true. And you and I haven't really done a deep dive because it sort of happened right before the Thanksgiving break. And anyway, but would you have quit if your partner, your husband, had done that? Because what happened was, what it's alleged is that Lizzie Savetsky's husband, there was an argument between, just like what you had said, there was a cast member who wanted to be set up. Lizzie basically said, I only set up Jewish people to date Jewish people. Sorry, that's just my passion or whatever. And then the person basically accused her of discrimination and somehow got into equating it to the N-word anyway. And Lizzie Savetsky's husband allegedly uses the full word in repeating the context to a producer. And then she quits. So would you have quit over that, by the way? Because what?
All of that is alleged, yes. And then also, I mean, again, I go back to did she quit? Did she really quit?
Oh, you think once he dropped the full N-word, they were like, okay, bye. This is just too much.
Yeah, that's really what I mean, look, first, when we heard it was yes. I mean, look, you could... there's anti-Semitism is real. I'm Jewish. Okay. By the way, also, guess what? All this, marriage equality and LGBT, people hate the fucking gays. Let me just tell you guys, walking down the street and in New York, people hate. So all this is real. This is why I don't really personally, me as a human, I don't stand on soapboxes because I mean, but I get it. It's not I get it every day. Yeah, no, in New York too, people hate the gays. Not let's go out. I'm going out with, Luann for my drink at the Regency. But yeah, there's people driving down the street so I think anti-Semitism is real. I think, discrimination against blacks, it's all real. It's all real, people. But in this situation, I believe that you can't just make all this up. Although, Lizzie says that he didn't use that word. I don't know who really would use that in retelling a story. Kind of tend to believe it happened. And Yeah, no, I think I personally think probably
Okay,
she
that
was
makes sense.
fired. That's just me. I don't think you quit over that, especially because she was in the mix in Texas, in Dallas Housewives filming with D'Angelo and Tiffany. I think she wanted this. And
I mean,
I just think when you use the full word, producers are like, well, now we have an issue. God knows who this producer was. I mean, could they have been a minority? I don't know. And I think then it's like, look, I think he went to complain to say, I think he was right to complain because you have to complain when there's that type of situation. Yeah, I think I think they were fired. I do.
okay, that makes sense.
That's
No,
just,
and I mean, yeah, I want to just say the same thing. I don't know how white people in 2022 don't realize never use the N word. Well, it's not just white people. I mean, obviously, Jewish people are their own race, but I mean, anybody, like, just don't use the N word unless you're black. It's just like crazy to me. I don't get how you're even repeating it in context. Don't. So you're probably right.
no.
They were fired. Okay.
No, and I do the same thing. Like I always say, like Jews, like I mean, I'm Jewish, but I guess technically that could offend someone. I mean, personally, I
Right, but
use
you are Jewish, though. I think it's
right.
totally
It
different
is.
in that context. It's like you can use other LGBTQ slang words,
I do all the
um,
time about myself. I call myself an F all the time.
which is really funny because I know so many gay men do that. I'm just like, I'm
And
sitting
I
there.
and I
Well, what do
used
you
it to
say?
like
I mean,
one of my
they can
friends.
do
I used
it.
it to, I mean, not
Did
towards
they
one
get
of my friends.
offended?
Yes. I didn't use it towards him. I just used it like in general
Are they
about myself.
LGBTQ plus?
Yes. Yes. And he
And they
was
were
like,
mad that you use
oh,
that.
that's a horrible. I'm like, all right, girl, settle down. We won't use it in front of you. Fine. But I use it about myself, but I would never use any other. And no, so I don't know. I agree with you. I don't know who's using that word when you're speaking to a
Anyway.
producer and retelling a story. And then finally with Luann, I mean, this was where I didn't even have to. I was like, how am I going to bring this up? Girlfriend was ready to talk about the bee and her podcast because
Oh,
I was like, look, Luann,
oh,
I was like, you said that it was pathetic. These are your quotes, girl. I'm reading them back to you. You said it was pathetic and this, and she had all these failed pivots. And I'm like, do you look that because that's not the Luann that I have known. I think she's very politically, she follows. And so I was like, you've reflected upon this for a few weeks now. Do you want to take that back? And she was like, no, no. And then she went into a whole
wait, why did I lose you? I don't hear any sound.
for me now.
Yes, yes, you're
Sorry.
back.
She went into a whole thing about how I just had to change my microphone. She went into a whole thing about how now she like doubled down. She's